Premier, an Ontario family that has been waiting 3 years for the trial of the reported murder of their beloved brother has just been told that they'll have to wait another year. And this is because that is the next available date at the Toronto Superior Court. Last week, yet another child sexual abuse case was thrown out in the Toronto Superior Court once again due to court delays. This is all happening under the Premier's watch. The first step to getting help is admitting that you have a problem. Yes or no? Question to the Premier. Will the Premier admit that public safety is in chaos because the Ontario courts have not been his priority?
To respond, the Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, and I read the same articles about the federal government not appointing enough judges, Mr. Speaker, but we're not going to stand by and let that be the cause of anything. When we put $72 million into the criminal backlog strategy, Mr. Speaker, they voted against it. When we hire Crown attorneys, when we hire case management coordinators, critical homicide assistants, community justice coordinators, bail vetters, Mr. Speaker, Ontario Victim Witness Assistance Program, Mr. Speaker, they vote against it, Mr. Speaker. We've hired over 350 additional full-time, and we have done things that have changed the system, the digital evidence management. You know, we are the second largest front line in the government, Mr. Speaker, and our people are working hard. We're adding to their resources. We're making sure that they have what they need. Now, Mr. Speaker, I can't even believe that the member opposite voted against supporting independent legal advice for sexual assault survivors, Mr. Speaker. They vote against everything that we do. Now, I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, what they do want, which is to defund police so there are less cases in the system, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Mr.
Back to the Premier. If every excuse from this minister was actually tabled, it could fix the problems that we have, but the justice system is clearly on his watch is failing him. It's failing him and all Ontarians. Speaker, we have record high historic backlogs. This is the worst record across the country. But this government works harder at putting out press releases than they do at fixing the courts. They search for old funding announcements so that they can re-announce them again instead of finding qualified workers to actually staff the courts. Nathaniel Patel's murder trial was delayed yet one more year. His sister told CTV, "My life has been on hold for 3 years. I'm suffering badly from survivor's guilt. Now there's another weight on top of that. I'm not in a good place." Speaker, for the families watching, does the Premier believe that it's reasonable to make Ontario families wait 4 years for murder trial date?
The Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, let me use just one example of what we are doing different. Back when I was a court clerk, the NDP were in charge of this province, Mr. Speaker, and if the court collapsed in 2 hours, I got paid 2 hours and sent home. It was precarious employment, Mr. Speaker, and when they were done with what they were doing, the Liberals took over. And you know what they did? They did absolutely nothing. Well, you know what we're doing, Mr. Speaker? We're offering full-time employment to those workers. We're increasing their pay, Mr. Speaker. We're making sure we have the resources in place. And it took this government to pay attention, to invest in the justice system, to make that happen.
The member for Windsor.